Hey guys, Tyler with Independence Overland. I wanted to touch base on some of what Toyota is coming out with because they're finally doing some pretty interesting stuff. You know, they're kind of stagnant in the way that they develop vehicles. It traditionally takes them way longer than most manufacturers to come out with new vehicles. And part of that reason is changing now. So they're actually coming out with some pretty cool stuff, and I'll kind of explain why that is happening. So Toyota is going to a global platform, and basically what that means is that they're streamlining their process of how they're building these vehicles, and it'll make the process faster, it'll make it more reliable, and most likely it'll make it cheaper for them. But Toyota USA specifically is getting improvements because of this. Now that Toyota has gotten with the times, we will start seeing new versions of vehicles faster. So that's exciting for us, and it's also exciting because this is launching now. And it doesn't seem like Toyota is wasting any time coming out with these vehicles. The Tundra is ditching the V8, which the writing was on the wall. The EPA standards are getting crazy. So in order to meet these efficiencies, they're going to have to do something. The Tundra now is going to come with a twin turbo V6, which a lot of people are going to see as a fault. It has 389 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty substantial. That's more power than the V8 was putting out. I think you can get them all as a hybrid, but the TRD Pro only comes as a hybrid, and that's 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque. That's insane for a Toyota truck. Like, that's one of the things we've always wanted in the United States is a more powerful Toyota, because they're just not known for being fast. They're not known for having a lot of power. They're going to sell what they've always sold, which is a relatively slow vehicle, decent amount of power, about average. Or you can upgrade it, and I'm assuming it's going to improve the efficiency of the vehicle too. If you're going to build one of these things out, I think this could be a big improvement over what we currently have. The max towing on the new Tundra is going to be 12,000 pounds. The hybrid version of the Tundra cuts some of the towing capacity out. That's probably for weight reasons because of the batteries and stuff. When you're towing with a hybrid Tundra, the engine will always be going. It won't go into just hybrid mode, electric vehicle mode. There's no fuel economy numbers out, but the guys at like TfL and stuff, some of the things they've been doing, they've been basically seeing like 22 miles at the gallon, and I think that was with the non-hybrid. So what Toyota hasn't put on the dash clusters of these things is like the efficiency and the battery charge. So kind of what's coming off is that they're putting the battery in for power, not necessarily for efficiency. Now, I'm sure it's going to help with efficiency, because once you get up to highway speeds, the vehicle will kick over into electric vehicle mode. They haven't done all the testing and stuff on some of these different channels and all these different websites. They haven't had full access to one of these to do like a long journey where they're going up and down the highways and stuff and really get into electric vehicle mode. I'm sure it's going to be better than what the standard V6 twin turbo is. And 583 pound-feet of torque is pretty tremendous. That's a lot of power. That's pushing into where a diesel would be, which is what's exciting. In my previous video, I talked about the hope of diesels, and if they came out with that new technology for like the ducted porting on the injectors, and that would make it clean enough to run. Obviously, they have not gone that way, but what I think they're onto is something pretty cool. Assuming you get the hybrid, you can have the torque output of a diesel, so that's pretty substantial. There's an electric motor that's basically sandwiched inside of the transmission, and so that will kick into gear. And when you're at highway speeds, and I'm sure on the off-road options, there's going to be a low grunt sort of thing. And so it's pretty cool, in my opinion, that they're doing that, because they've been doing hybrids for a long time. Now they're bringing it into the trucks. I know people don't want to see the V8 go away, but it's going away. And being that this is the same engine that's been put into the Land Cruiser, I personally have full faith in it. I think they've done plenty of testing. Of course, as people start getting these, they'll find a few issues, and Toyota will improve them over time, as they always do. So this same engine is going to be in the 300 series Land Cruiser, in the new LX 600, and I'm sure it's going to be in a lot of other stuff too. It'll probably be in the new Sequoia. So it's very interesting to me to see that this is coming out. It's pretty cool. Some versions of the Tundra feature air suspension systems that kind of automatically level the truck out depending on loads. So if you were just doing like weekend camping or something like that, some of them have the automatic leveling features. They have switched over to a 5-link coil rear suspension, which is awesome. And it's going to have a locking diff on some of the models. That's an upgrade that you can get. And like the TRD Pro, of course, is just going to come with it. That's the first time the Tundra has come with a locking differential. Even the TRD Pros of like the 2020 models, they didn't have that. So I don't exactly know what all you're getting out of buying a TRD Pro. It's kind of silly that they didn't have that to begin with. The hybrid version of the Tundra is going to have a significantly bigger diff to put up with the extra power because it is a lot of extra torque. The bed options are going to be 5.5 feet, 6.5 feet, 8 feet. So for the purpose of building a truck, that's pretty substantial. 8 foot, I mean, depends on where you're going. If you're just doing national parks and stuff, you can have as long of a bed as you want. I know that they don't sell very well, but I would be more interested in the new Tundra if it had a single cab option. So you could make a shorter vehicle, put a camper on the back, and it would be a pretty sweet truck with a ton of power that you could carry all sorts of stuff and have a pretty neat camper setup with a shorter wheelbase. Most of us doing trails and stuff, the 5.5 foot's probably going to fit the bill. And again, I think the TRD Pro only comes with a 5.5 foot bed. Properly equipped Tundras can have a maximum payload of 1,940 pounds, which is a huge improvement over the last generation. I'm happy to see Toyota's finally pushing into the payloads because it's a big thing, especially for all of us that are loading our trucks down. The interior comes standard with like an 8-inch screen, or you can be upgraded. I think there's a 12-inch too, but I know that there's a 14-inch in the top of the line models like the TRD Pro. And so those will be nice for maps and stuff. So a lot of you guys that have big iPads and stuff on your dash, you won't have to do that. You can just run your phone through Apple CarPlay and have your maps up there. It's going to have a 10-speed automatic, which again is a huge improvement, twice the gears. And so, or actually, I think the old Tundra had a 6-speed, but still a 10-speed automatic is going to be a huge improvement, especially for people like myself that are always doing mountain passes. When you combine a twin turbo, a hybrid, and a 10-speed automatic, this thing is going to be awesome for going up and down the passes when you're heading to a campsite. And then, of course, going up trails and stuff, it'll stay in those lower gears. But that's really cool to see. Electric vehicles are the future. They have more power. They're silent. They can do all sorts of cool stuff. And as they start to get the ranges up, those will become more useful. But for now, we all know that going on a trail would not be the easiest thing because you'd have to go to town to recharge and stuff like that. So Toyota's kind of taking the step of putting hybrids in their major trucks. And of course, some of the other manufacturers have done this too, but it's a big deal for Toyota because they take their time with all this stuff. And of course, they're behind the times on a lot of it. So they've been building hybrids since 1997 with the Priuses and stuff. So by now they've got it nailed down. With a hybrid especially, and once you re-gear one of these things and you put a flatbed on it with a 4-wheel camper, I think you could realistically expect to get decent fuel economy out of one of these once it's built up. If you build the previous generation Tundra, kind of like the Bound for Nowhere channel has, that thing gets like 8 miles to the gallon, or I'm sure worse at times. And so this is going to be a huge improvement over something like that, because even if you can get 18 miles to the gallon or something like that, once you've re-geared and you've got your power back, this could be substantial, especially with that hybrid. Most of these hybrids and electric vehicles now have regenerative braking, and what that means is instead of applying power to the wheels from the electric motor, when you're going down things, it'll actually do the opposite. It'll use the wheels to provide power to the battery because gravity's taking you downhill. It doesn't need it, so it'll actually recharge the battery free of charge. So you're not using gasoline to do that. You're not using anything else to do that. So this will have regenerative braking. If you're climbing up a trail and you're using up that battery power, that low end torque from the hybrid system, as soon as you crest over and you're going down something else, it'll recharge. Or if you're not doing that, the engine will just recharge it. So I think it's going to be a pretty cool system. I know that Toyota has thought this through, and so I'm excited to see what it is. But anyway, that covers my perspective on the Tundra. I'm going to step into Lexus a little bit here for a second. The new Lexus LX 600 has been announced, which is our version of the 300 series Land Cruiser. In my opinion, the reason the Land Cruiser didn't sell well here is because it was a luxury version, as well as the Lexus is a luxury version. So, and they were basically the same cost. So a lot of people are just going to go over and get the even fancier version. The Lexus LX models are Land Cruisers. They've always been that way. There's always been the Toyota Land Cruiser in the United States, and then there's been the Lexus version of it, which is the LX. And so the newest one is the LX 600. And what this is it is the new 300 series Land Cruiser that everybody else is getting and we're not getting in a Lexus package. Now, part of the reason the Toyota Land Cruiser failed here is because it's a luxury version in itself. It was an $85,000 truck. For a few $1,000s more, you could go get the LX version of that from Lexus. And it was another luxury vehicle. It was just more luxury. They didn't give us a stripped down version of just like a basic off-roader. And that's probably part of the reason that it failed, just because nobody can afford the thing. And so anyway, we are getting a version of the Land Cruiser, and it's the LX 300 series. And so I don't want to go too far into this just because It's a $100,000 truck. This new LX600 is going to be between $90,000 and $100,000 depending on the trim you get. So I don't think a lot of my viewers are going to be buying one, nor am I going to be buying one. Now you can get the LXs for cheap once they're used. If you're looking at the same year, just a couple years old, you can usually get the LX for like $15,000 cheaper or something like that, just like huge numbers. But I don't know that that's going to exist anymore now that the Lexus LX is the only Land Cruiser that we get. So anyway, I don't think a lot of us are going to be buying one. I'm not for the time being because I can't afford anything like that. I hope you can. That is great if you can. Next is the Lexus GX460, which a lot of us could afford, and it is a Land Cruiser Prado. It's the Land Cruiser has always been Toyota's pride and joy. It's their most durable vehicle, their most well-designed vehicle. Well, if you can't afford that, which a lot of us can't, you step into like the Land Cruiser Prado overseas, or here it's sold as the Land Cruiser GX series. So we still have the GX 460. So even though they look like a grocery getter, they are very, very capable vehicles, and it's not a new version yet, but they redid the interior. It'll fall in line with the new platform as well, just like the Lexus LX has, the new Land Cruiser has, the new Tundra has. Everything is going to convert over to the new platform. And so the GX got a redesign on the interior this year, but that's as far as it's going for now. I'm sure in the next year or two, we'll actually see like a full-on refresh. I think they just did something to kind of keep people interested in a new interior, because all the new interiors are far nicer than the old trucks are. I mean, all of them compared to what I'm used to, the FJ you get in that thing's so old school. So all the new vehicles with like the screens and stuff are really nice. Okay, so I saved the best for last, and it's the new Toyota Tacoma. And this is going to be the 4th gen version. The 3rd gen, which has been dubbed the turd gen by some of the members on the forums and stuff, are going to be very pleased that this is being replaced already. And this is very, very new for Toyota to replace something this soon. But it is one of their best-selling vehicles. And I'm the most excited about this one because I'm going to buy one. I'm going to buy one as soon as they're available. There's new leaked photos showing the prototype being tested already. Generally speaking, when companies start having the prototypes out on the street, kind of out in the open, even though it's still camouflaged and you can't see what it looks like, they usually don't do that if the truck is 2 years out. So this is a pretty good sign that this is going to be coming next year, which is very exciting. Going off of some of the photos that I saw, it does have rear calipers. You can see those through the wheels. And then the rear end from the backside is camouflaged, so you can't see underneath it. And that is a very good sign that this is going to have the same 5-link type of suspension that the Tundra just got. Instead of leaf springs, they're getting rid of those. And so you'll have your lower links, your upper links, and then your pan hard bar. And so it'll have more of what we know as the SUV sort of suspension on them. This is way sooner of a redesign than I would have expected, because the 3rd gen was like a dinosaur from the get-go, and it only came out in 2016. So it's not a very old truck in the grand scheme of things. But again, Toyota is doing all this platform stuff so they can be more competitive and keep their trucks more modern and come out with new versions more often. The Tacoma is one of their best-selling vehicles. It's the best-selling midsize truck in the United States, so it would make sense that they want to get ahead of the game. With the Gladiator out there, the Chevy models, the ZR2s and stuff, and now the Ford Ranger, and the Ford Ranger's coming out with a bigger and better version with the V6 is what the rumor is. They've got to do something to be competitive. They're falling behind, and they don't want to lose their spot as the best-selling truck. So it's hard to say what the engine's going to be. Again, with the Tundra not having the diesel and it's going hybrid, I'm 100% sure that's probably the direction they're going to go with the Tacoma and the 4Runners and stuff. So the images that we had seen previously of like the tachometer topping out at 4,500, they might have just taken that from some Australian truck or something like that. Who knows? But it doesn't look like that's what we're going to be getting. So diesels are out of the questions at this point, but the engine will probably be a small displacement engine. And again, there's going to be a divide on this. They're going to switch to a 4-cylinder, I'm sure, with a turbocharger. And a lot of people are not going to like that. I've seen a Ford Ranger out on the sand dunes. I've traveled with one, and it gets better fuel economy. It's way faster than what I have. They're really nice trucks. The way that they're building them now, turbos can be reliable, and so that's just the direction things are going to meet EPA standards. So I'm personally going to just accept that this is what it is. We're losing displacement, and so that's just the way the world's going. Toyota is planning on having an electrified version by 2024, 2025, something like that. And so it makes sense that they would come out with one of their best-selling vehicles right off the bat. So the Tundra's getting it. I'm sure the Tacoma is going to get it as well. If you compare the two trucks, the old Tundra got like 8 to 12 miles per gallon. So if you compare that to the current third gen Tacoma, it gets like 18 to 22. So while the new Tundra basically got twice the fuel economy, I don't think we're going to get that far with the Tacoma, but it's going to get significantly improved. So from the factory, I would not be surprised to see 30 miles of the gallon, somewhere in that range. And with the hybrid, you might even be stepping up from that. But don't get too excited about that, because once you weigh them down, bigger tires, all that stuff, you're going to lose a lot of it. But I'm okay with that. As long as I'm getting better fuel economy, that would be really nice to have. I would assume that the new Tacoma is going to have some of those same features that the Tundra has. So the new Tundra TRD Pro gets a rear locker. Never had a locker before. It would be very cool to see if now that the TRD Pros in the mid-sized range get a front locker, because that would be a big deal. Because they did away with the Land Cruiser, it would be cool to see Toyota kind of make up for that in a way of we get more options for our off-roading mid-sized trucks. The Land Cruiser came with front and rear lockers, but the Tacomas, the 4Runners, the FJs, they only came with a rear locker. So it would be very cool to see if with the new TRD Pros, if they came with a front locker. That would be a big deal. I mean, the Bronco offers it. The Rangers, I think, offer it. The ZR2s offer it. So it would be a big thing if Toyota would offer a front locker, because that would save a lot of people a lot of headache, have a reliable front locking, electric locking differential, and then that would make those trucks that much better. And part of the thing is, if they're offering the rear locker now on the Tundra, then it would be cool to see that they offer a little bit more on the Tacoma, assuming they follow that same trend. But everybody else is offering a front locker, so give us a front locker. So this new engine that's going to be likely a 4-cylinder, it's going to have the same horsepower and torque output that the old one had, because Toyota wouldn't want to come out with a new truck with a smaller engine and have lower numbers, because then it'd piss people off. So what they're going to do, and I guarantee this, is they'll come out, it'll be slightly more powerful. This thing's going to be better on passes and everything, because when you're going on high mountain passes, you're losing power because there's just not enough oxygen. When you're going up the passes, you want turbos stuffing air into those cylinders. So we're going to get that. This thing's going to have the same horsepower and torque output as the other one, roughly. I bet it'll be 10 to 20 horsepower and pound-feet of torque difference. It's not going to be very much baseline. But when you add the hybrid into it, you could potentially get a high output torque in a Tacoma. So this is going to be very similar to what the diesels get in other countries. We're going to be looking at a 4-cylinder with a turbo, twin turbo. Who knows how they're going to do that? And it's going to have the same amount of output that the current V6 has, for sure. They will not go lower than that, because they won't put a smaller engine in and give it less power, because that'll just piss people off, because nobody wants to accept that we're going to these smaller engines. But what they're going to do, and I almost guarantee they're going to do this, is they will do the same thing they did with the Tundra and give us a hybrid version of this truck. And now you can have a Tacoma that could potentially get between 30, 35 miles a gallon, something like that. But it could have up to 100 pound-feet of torque more power. So that will be huge. That's a huge stepping stone for getting into hybrid vehicles and getting people behind them. Because if you and I can have a Tacoma that has more output than the Hilux does in other countries, that's a big deal. That's one of the things with the Tacoma, is it's not as heavily built as a Hilux. The Tacoma is plenty durable. It puts up with all sorts of abuse, but it's not the same as the Hilux is, as a lot of people tend to think. They are very different trucks. They have different frames. Everything's different. But that's changing. That's the other part of this whole platform system. At one point early on, the Hilux left the United States, and then we got the Tacoma, and the Tacoma just is not the same truck. It's a lot less durable. But now they're coming back and merging in, and that's because of the way the frames are going to be built now. So we're going to get a fully boxed frame for the Tacoma. And if we take the cues from what we're getting out of the Tundra, it'll likely have a hybrid version. It'll have a bigger differential for the hybrid version to put up with that power. And so essentially we're getting a hybrid version of a Hilux, and that's a big deal. Like, we should all be pretty excited about that coming. So with the new platform, the Tacoma is almost guaranteed to go onto the new Hilux frame. The mid-size market for the body-on-frame stuff from Toyota is going to share a frame, and so I can pretty much guarantee you that the Tacoma and the Hilux are merging again like they once were. And for those of you that may not know, the Hilux is a mid-size truck in Africa, in Australia, Mexico gets them. The Hilux is essentially a heavy-duty mid-size truck. I think the maximum payload in a third-gen Tacoma is like 1,183 pounds. If you configure it properly, you can get, I think, a little bit more than that, but we're talking a 4-cylinder and a long bed and all this stuff, something that nobody really uses. But if you're getting one of the more useful trucks with the V6, our maximum payload's somewhere around 1,200 pounds, which is very low. If you look at the Hilux trucks in other countries, you can get one fitted for like 2,500 pound payload from the factory. That's more than our new Tundra gets, but you can't do that here, nor will the new Tacoma do that here. But it's just exciting that it's that much more of a durable truck, and it's going to be sharing the frame with the Tacoma. So we're going to be getting a more substantial vehicle. It'll still be the Tacoma, I'm sure. They're not going to change the name or anything like that, but we're going to be getting a more substantially built vehicle. I don't expect the payloads to be dramatically bigger. Maybe we'll get one with like a 1,500 or 1,600 pound payload to match what the Ford Ranger's doing, but I'm not expecting it to be like Australia where they get 2,400 pounds. There's no way they'll do that here. It's still going to give me more confidence because when I buy one of these, it's going to be heavy. I'm going to put a camper shell on it and do the whole thing. Kind of like I was saying, the Lexus GX and LX are different rebranded versions of the Land Cruisers. You can think of that how the Tacoma is going to be. It's going to kind of be a rebadged American version of the Hilux. So the Tacoma and the Hilux will have more similar features than ever before, and this is a huge improvement for the U.S. market. We're going to get more payload, more towing, I hope more towing, and it'll have an engine with better fuel economy. Okay, so there's no images of what this thing looks like. There's a few like renderings of what people think it could be, because with the camouflage, it looks similar to what the Tundra is. And that's all well and good. Who knows what it's going to look like? Doesn't matter to me. I'm going to buy one. Just like when the 3rd gen came out, I didn't like the look of the 3rd gen Tacoma. And then after a couple months, it's like, okay, that's the best looking Tacoma by far. It grows on you, just like the new Tundra is starting to grow on people. And I do prefer Toyota products. The FJ's got 206,000 miles on it. I've barely had any problems with that in the 11 years that I've owned it. So I just have a hard time. I'm not necessarily trying to make this channel all about Toyota, but it's what I'm the most interested in. And I think there's people that know more about Jeeps and stuff like that. They could speak for those. So there's other channels that are probably better for that. So I do have interest in some of the Jeeps and stuff. I think some of these companies are doing pretty cool stuff. I have a very good experience with Toyota, so I'm going to stick with Toyota. And I will be buying one of these trucks next year, towards the end of the year, as soon as they're available. The new Tundra will be available in December, so I'm guessing that I will be able to get my new truck in December of next year, assuming that I'm correct that there will be the 2023 model year, which with them benchmarking it against the Ford Ranger, it seems like it would probably be a near completion truck. And the fact that they're even letting it out of the garage to go test these things and people are going to see it and get excited about it, they wouldn't want people getting excited about it too soon, because they still need to sell their trucks for 2022. And so anyway, it's going to be an exciting time. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff coming from Toyota. I'm sure the 4Runner is going to be getting a revamp pretty soon, which should be also sharing more with the 4Tuner from overseas. I'm excited about the hybrid personally, and that's probably what I'm going to get just because I want that extra power. That'll be helpful for pretty much everything we're doing with these trucks. So it's going to be cool to see what they're coming out with. I'm excited to start building on one of these Tacomas at the end of next year, but one of the downsides is that aftermarket support will be slow because it's a new setup. Everything's rebuilt on them. It's going to take a little while for ARB and some of these suspension companies to get caught up and design a new suspension for these trucks. So it'll be a little slow going compared to what I'm used to. I'm used to stuff just being available for the vehicle that I've owned forever. But I'm definitely due for a new vehicle, and I have some cool ideas. So the Tacoma is going to be the one that I go for, and I'm very excited to get one. So I will be pre-ordering that next year, assuming I'm correct that they will be coming out for the 2023 year. So one of the things that most people complain about, especially in the United States, is Toyotas are just underpowered. So now we're going to have the option of upfitting it and getting something with substantially more power. And I'm hoping that same thing bleeds over into the Tacomas and the 4Runners and stuff. And so you can have an upgrade like that, and it's equivalent to like a supercharger, but it's going to have a warranty, and it's going to be a reliable system. They've been doing this forever. So I'm personally excited about this. I'm curious what you guys think about these new engine variants and stuff. All right, guys, so that's my report on the new Toyota stuff. I'm interested in what you guys think about the hybrids, what you guys think about the V6s, the potential 4-cylinder with the turbocharger and the mid-size range. I'm personally just going to embrace it because that's the way it is now. And all of the companies eventually are going to have to follow suit just because the EPA is on their ass. There's no way that they can get away from this. So it's a matter of who's going to be the most creative about dealing with that. For the first time in a long time, they're doing some exciting things. We're going to get fuel economy and we're going to get more power. I think that's a win, even though it's a smaller displacement. Technology's catching up, and we're going to have the best of both worlds, in my opinion. Tell me what you guys think below, and I'll try to start doing some more of these kind of reports on what's going on with Toyota It's just I don't want to report on things just because there's new images coming out. I will share those on Instagram. I'll share those in my feed on YouTube whenever I see an image. But as far as actually reporting, I like to learn more about what's going on rather than just trying to be the first one to put a video up. So anyway, tell me what you guys think. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And until next time. As always, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to check out my other adventure, off-road, and overland related content.